Hi everyone, I'm Jeanette. I'm the owner of Intuitive Indigo. I am a tarot reader, a Reiki master, a yogi, and a spiritual coach. And one of the things that I've run into in my profession is I get a lot of questions about what spirit guides are. What are they? Who are they? How do I know when they're talking to me? How do I listen to them? How do I communicate back with them? What does it mean to have a spirit guide? I get questions an awful lot. And so I decided to do my first masterclass video to answer as many of those questions as I could. I'm pretty sure that through the course of this, there will be more questions you come up with that I will not have covered. Please feel free to send me those questions. You can drop me a DM on Facebook. You can go to my website, intuitiveindigo.com, and drop me a question through there. I'm happy to help. I'm happy to answer as many questions as I can. So without further ado, I will get started. I did create a page of notes. They're over here where I'm looking. So if you're wondering where I'm constantly looking off screen, that would be why. To cover the basics, spirit guides are exactly what you think they are. They're exactly what they sound like. They are spirit form guides. So people who have passed, it could be angels, it could be ascended masters, it could be ancestors from your family, from your spouse's family, from a neighbor's family, anyone who would have a reason to be connected with you that has passed could possibly be one of your spirit guides. I do believe some of them also are guides that were assigned to you at birth. So I'm going to launch a little more into that in a moment. But I did want to cover a few more of the basics. So the next question that I get a lot is, does everyone have spirit guides? In my belief, yes, everyone does. Not everyone tunes into them. Not everyone utilizes them for the benefits that they can get. And a lot of people just don't know how to get in touch with them or how to utilize that gift. And it's simple, but at the same time requires a really large amount of trust, because when you're getting in touch with your spirit guides, you have to understand and know how to trust your own intuition. You have to be able to hear that inner voice that is communicating to you all the time, and you have to have developed a relationship with it where you trust it. So that can be different for each person. Everyone's kind of a different place on their path when it comes to their spirit guides, when it comes to trusting their own intuition. It just depends how much you've been practicing, if you've been exposed to people who can help you understand that better, and if you've been, diligently meditating and quieting yourself and listening to see what you hear in the silence. Also, trusting your intuition takes action that you would base on those things that you hear. So a good example is if you're driving and all of a sudden you just have this feeling like you should change lanes. Sometimes our logic and reason will kind of win out and be like, no, that's ridiculous. Like, whatever, I'll just continue on this path. And you continue on the path and all of a sudden there's a car accident in front of you and traffic backs up and it takes longer for you to get home. Or you go, what's it going to hurt if I change lanes? I'm going to switch lanes, and then you avoid the accident, you avoid the traffic, or you're able to get off the freeway sooner. So learning how to hear that voice or hear that inclination or that little nudge to do or not do something, learning how to hear that and trust that and take action on it in the moment is easy for some, hard for others, but we're trained societally not to do it. We're trained to logic and reason our way through things. And I have found personally, when I listen to my intuition and I trust it, that I'd say 99.9% of the time, it saves me grief in my life. It helps me. It keeps me on my right path. It keeps me from suffering, keeps me from struggle. And so I just want to encourage that if you're going to look into communicating with your spirit guides, that you first start looking into communicating with yourself by listening to your intuition, listening to that little voice inside that kind of guides you and has your back. That is your higher self. It's the universe. And sometimes the intuition voice that you have in your head is actually your spirit guides. And pardon me. Sometimes it's not important to distinguish between them. The important part is getting the message. As you practice more and as you develop yourself more, it can become more important to you to know, okay, where is this message coming from? How can I give gratitude to where it came from? How can I deepen my spiritual walk and my spiritual journey by knowing exactly where the message came from and what to do with it and how this pertains to me and how this pertains to other people in my life? So I definitely encourage you to explore that more. But when you begin, you may not know exactly where the message is coming from. You can know that it's a good message by how it feels with your gut and with your intuition. And by proving out over time that it's doing you a service. So like I said, if you switch lanes and you avoid a traffic accident, or if you avoid more traffic so that you actually, are late getting where you're going, learning to have those experiences, trust that, take the adventure, and then kind of keeping track of how often that actually benefits you will help you build that trust. And I think that trusting your intuition and trusting your spirit guides goes hand in hand. You have to be able to trust that higher part of yourself, that message from the universe, the messages that are there to guide you and keep you and protect you, because that is the category that spirit guides fall into as well. So yes, I do believe everyone has spirit guides. I do think that spirit guides can show up in many forms. They can be ascended masters. So Buddha, Jesus, Ganesh, Kuan Yin, any of a huge number of ascended masters can interact with you as a spirit guide. I would say it's probably less common. I would say that they interact with you for the big stuff. And yet I've met people who are on a very close spirit guide relationship basis with the Mother Mary or with Jesus, and insist that they come to them frequently. I think that's entirely possible. There's no reason that that can't happen. And I do think that the Ascended Masters are capable of being guides to many, many, many people all at the same time. I know for myself, I do have a very good personal relationship with Ganesh. And I do feel that when I call on him as a spirit guide, he does provide guidance, and he removes obstacles, and he opens doors and removes roadblocks, which is what he's known for. And to be frank, that's why I call on him, right? I acknowledge him and his power in that arena, and I ask for his help. I also have asked for help from the Buddha, from Kuan Yin. I've asked for help from Jesus. And I know that the Ascended Masters are there to help us learn and help us grow, but also to help give guidance when we get really stuck. And sometimes it's hard to take that guidance from a lesser being. We have this thing as humans where we want to be instructed by, the foremost knowledge on a thing. And so I think sometimes we intentionally seek the Ascended Masters because we want to make sure that we're right. We want to make sure that the guidance is right, that we're doing the right thing. And I think that they understand that. I think they know that that's one of our human flaws, and they work with us on that. So I do believe Ascended Masters are spirit guides and do interact with us. Ancestors from your family line can be spirit guides. Ancestors from your partner's family line or your neighbor's family line. If they're people who are close to you or have been close to your family in the past, their ancestors and the people in that line that have passed are very capable of coming back and being a guide to you. I have a couple of clients that have a neighbor friend of their father who has passed come back and be a guide to them, because when they were a little girl or a little boy, they just had a really big affinity for them, and they want to be able to help them from the other side. And I think that that's precious. I think that it speaks to really good, close human relationships that people have when they're here on Earth, and them wanting to continue that and wanting to protect the generations that come after. And keep an eye on them. And so I do believe and have run into people's neighbors or people's, close relatives, or, the aunt that's not really your aunt. I feel like people that are that close to the family also, when they pass, can come back as guides. Angels. If you believe in angels, if you don't believe in angels, I never really was a big fan until I called on one and he helped me. So I know from my experience that angels are around and they can really show up as guides, as protectors, as helpers. I've called on Archangel Michael a number of times, usually when I feel unsafe, usually when I'm in a situation where I feel like I need protection or someone to have my back. And I have always felt his presence, and it's made a difference in the situation, strangely enough. So, trying to think if I can give an example. Well, this was a different guide. It wasn't an angel, but I went to a gas station super late at night in a really shady part of town in Detroit, and it was really sketchy, but I needed gas, and I had to, and it was probably like 1:00 in the morning. And so I just kind of like sent up a little prayer, like, hey, guides, whoever's around, can somebody just have my back? I'm nervous about going in here. It doesn't feel very safe. Can you help me out? And when I got out of the car, there were a few other people at the gas station. Everyone that was there turned and looked at me when I got out of my car. But they were looking at me like, holy shit. As though they saw somebody standing there behind me or beside me. Because they were looking above my head and behind. And I was like, what is going on? And they just kind of like mouths open agape looking at me. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to get some gas. So I started to walk over to the building because I had cash. And one of the guys that was there pumping his own gas left his pump and ran over and opened the door for me. Unheard of in Detroit. If you're not from here, unheard of. That doesn't happen, especially not in the hood. So that was a little mind-blowing. I went in, paid for my gas. The gas attendant looked at me funny too, like with a whoa kind of look. And I was just really puzzled. And then when I went to leave the building, someone else from inside the building rushed over and opened the door so that I could leave and go to my car. And everyone was behaving as though I had this like giant sword-wielding somebody with me that was intimidating and scary, and like it just was a signal to not mess with me. And it was the craziest experience. And the only thing that I can chalk it up to, because I'm a pretty harmless looking girl, I could only chalk it up to the guide that I asked to help me, that I asked to have my back, that I asked to protect me. I never in a million years thought that the people around me would have an experience of maybe seeing him or seeing something that had them go, ooh, I'm not going to mess with her. But I had that experience, and it's very hard to explain away. So I do believe that you can call on the angels. I do believe you can call on your guides. And I do believe that when you need them most, they will show up. They will bring to you that which you need. I think that spirit animals can act as guides. If you're out in nature or just in your neighborhood and rabbits keep showing up, or an eagle flies over, or a falcon. Every animal has a different meaning as far as spirit. And it's usually in Native American tradition, but there's South American tradition. There is Celtic and Druid tradition. There's Norse tradition. All of the animals were very revered and believed to have certain traits and characteristics. And so if you're having an interaction that is strange for you with an animal, or a dream about an animal, you can actually look that up and see what those messages are. And I take those to be communications from spirit as well. So I do believe that animals can be spirit guides. I do believe that my familiar, my dog Stubby, is one of my spirit guides. Whether he's an ancestor that decided to come back in dog form, I don't know. But I do know that he has given me messages that have protected me and kept me safe. including one where he told me not to leave the house one day. And I ignored him and did it anyway. And the result of that was totaling my car and 3 months of physical therapy. But I didn't die. But I often think back to that moment when I was in the bathtub and he put his paw on my arm on the side of the tub. And I heard in my head, "Mama, don't leave the house today." And I was like, I must be losing my mind. This is insane. My dog just talked to me. My dog didn't talk to me. That's ridiculous. So I just kind of like gave him a pat on the head and ignored it and whatever. And then he did it again. He put his paw on my arm on the side of the tub and said, in my head, somehow communicated, "Mama, don't leave the house today." And I just kind of shook my head and blew it off. So I got up, got ready, and I went to leave the house because I had a client. And as I was getting ready to leave, my own intuition said, if you're going to leave because there's a blizzard out there, you really should put on your warmest clothes and your boots and like the whole nine. And I was like, I'm just driving to someone's house. It's no big deal, but I did it anyway. And it's lucky that I did, because when I got on the freeway, about halfway to where I was going, the client called me and said, "It's okay, go back home. It's not safe out." Exited the freeway, got back on the freeway, and hit a patch of ice and 50 miles an hour, hit a wall, and wrecked my car and wrecked my shoulder and some other body parts. But as I was standing there waiting for the wrecker to come and tow my car and to get me, I was fully warm and fully dressed because I listened to my intuition that said, wear your boots, wear your coat, wear your hat, wear your scarf, wear your mittens, of the whole nine. And so it really just kind of drove home when there's a thought that is that prevalent and that insane. It wasn't my thought. I knew it wasn't my thought. There's no reason why my head would go, "Mama, don't leave the house today." And that's what the experience is like when you hear from spirit, when you hear from intuition, when you hear from the universe. There's a message to protect you or to keep you safe or to guide you. And it occurs like a thought in your head, but it's a thought that's not yours. That's the best way that I can explain it. And in this case, it sounded like what Stubby would say to me if he could speak, because he's my dog and I tell him that I'm his mama. So he said, "Mama, don't leave the house." And so you kind of have to take what enters into your head and think about, okay, is that me? It's almost an instant gut reaction. Like, no, why would I say that? Why would I think that? My head wouldn't, how could my head even come up with that? How could my head even know that I was in store for a car accident? Or like there was just no good reason for it. So I'm hoping that conveys a little bit clearer what it's like to hear from spirit or from a spirit guide, because that was my experience. And usually when it's something big and important like that, that is how I hear it. Not always from my dog, but like a very distinct voice in my head that is unmistakable, and it's very firm usually. One of my ancestors is my great-grandmother, Anna, and she loves to come to me right in that stage between awake and asleep. And she likes to come and in this ear scream, "Let it go!" Usually when I'm stressing too much about something or when I'm freaking out. Excuse me. And she's so intense. She was a pretty angry lady when she was alive, and I didn't really know her, as she passed away when I was like 2 or 3. But she is stubborn and powerful, and one of the matriarchs in our family, because we're a family full of matriarchs. And she'll just come in my ear and just, "Let it go!" and scares the shit out of me every time. But you know what? It works. It totally works. She's right. And I'm grateful for the counsel, because sometimes I get so wrapped up in my own head that I don't realize that I'm clinging tenaciously to things that I need to let go. So those are my experiences as far as how spirit guides have shown themselves to me. I've had many, many more experiences, which I'm sure I'll share a few of them as we go. But those are the ones that really made me go, oh, legit, like this is real. Because when I first started into the metaphysical and doing tarot and doing my mediumship class, I was like, I don't know if this is real. This could just be a bunch of BS. And I was very, very skeptical. And the more experiences I had, the more real it became. And the more I realized, oh, if I'm open to this and I'm open to hearing from them and I'm open to understanding, it's going to provide more clarity as I go, which is true. I also believe that there are no hard and fast rules about who can be a guide. One of my guides was an AI from another planet. I don't know what to tell you about that. What I do know is that I would look in my rearview mirror and I'd see this robot looking thing in the back seat behind me. And when I turned to look, he wouldn't be there. And he would give me hints when I was driving about how to stay safe. And again, it was just a thought in my head, but I could see him in the back of my car. But he was an AI. And after that car accident, the one I was talking about where Stubby warned me about it, he never showed up again. I didn't need him. He was there. And I do feel like he kind of intercepted and protected me as I went through that accident so that I didn't get more hurt than I was, because it was a pretty heinous accident. I also believe that your higher self can be your guide as you're working toward your own enlightenment. You can hear versions of yourself, past versions of yourself, or future versions of yourself, and those can be guides, as crazy as that may seem. So I think that we shouldn't limit ourselves by putting in a box who we think a spirit guide can be. I sometimes have clients go, well, I don't know, I didn't even know that guy. Like, he died when I was, a year old. Like, why would he be my spirit guide? Maybe he had an affinity for you. Maybe he really loved your family and wanted to look out for you. Maybe you had the same name as his wife. There could be any reason that a spirit decides to be a guide for you. But having guides is a gift. It's so beneficial. They help us. They give us information. They do things for us that we can't do for ourselves. And that's actually the next question on the list. What do spirit guides do? One of my mentors and teachers said to me, spirit guides are the butlers of the universe. And it just made me laugh right out loud. But they're the helpers. They are there to serve. They are there to bring you information. They are there to help you succeed. They want to help you. They can give you guidance on your path. They can access information from places you can't go. So for instance, if I'm doing a tarot reading and I'm really puzzled about the message that I'm getting from the cards, I can ask them, can you go get in touch with her deceased mother and come back and tell me what this is about, because this pertains to her mom or to her and her relationship with her mom. Can you please go look at the Akashic records and see what's in the Akashic records that pertains to this situation, because her relationship with her mother is causing damage, or it's causing her to make poor choices. I mean, there's a million things that you can ask spirit guides to do. You can ask them, what is the future of this situation? You can ask yes and no questions like, is this going to pan out the way we think it is? And the more practiced I got with it, I kind of moved from trying to find out, well, which guide is this and what's your name and what do you look like? Because I realized that I formed a level of trust with them that it didn't matter. It doesn't matter who's telling you the information. Once you form that trust, you just realize that they have your best interests at heart. And so now in my head, it's kind of like this chorus line of people that are standing. It's weird. They all have robes on. I don't know why. That's what my head does. But, and they're always over on this side for me. So when I'm interacting with my spirit guides, they're always on my right-hand side. And then if spirit comes through that I need to pass a message on to my client from, like people who have passed in their lives, they show up on this side. And I think at some point I asked them to do that so I would know who was who, just for the sake of clarity. So when I'm doing a reading and I'm like, and I get the question, should I get divorced? I can pull a card. And just about any card will give you an answer for that, but it seldom gives you a yes or a no. Very often it gives you a, you're unhappy. And you choose things that make you feel bound and not free. Or like it gives a longer explanatory answer. The cards very seldom are just like straight up yes or no. But I can ask my guides. And usually when I'm doing the cards, it looks like this. Because I'm looking up in my head, in my mind's eye, and I'm seeing them. And I ask the question quietly in my head. And then and sometimes I get half and half. Sometimes they don't agree. But I tell the client what has happened. I tell the client the message that I'm getting. And my clients, after a long enough period of time, have come to trust my guides as well. Because when I've given the messages from them and they see them pan out and they see that they're accurate, then they go, oh, okay, her guides are on point. And I don't know another way to build that kind of trust between, other people and my guides. But the experiences they've had with me and the experiences they've had with the messages that I give that have largely come from my guides, because I'm a conduit from the divine, from my guides to my clients, just creates this amazing level of trust between them and my spirit guides. And I think it's really, really cool. So even if they can't get in touch with their own, they have had the experience of understanding what mine do. And so that can open up a door, and that can open up an avenue for them to maybe get in touch with theirs later. So this is a list of things spirit guides can do. It is by no means definitive. They can affirm a choice you've made. They can bring beneficial messages from people who've passed in your life. Sometimes they can even bring the people through and bring them into the conversation if there's a medium present, or if you have mediumship skills. They can prompt your actions with intuitive messages to guide and protect you, like I was talking about with Stubby telling me not to leave the house that day, or the little messages about switching lanes. They can answer questions about the past, present, and future. What I have found is it's easiest to ask them yes and no questions, kind of like a pendulum. And I actually do believe that you can ask your spirit guides to communicate through your pendulum as well. So if you want the answer to be clearer and you're not comfortable with hearing the voice in your head and trusting that it's not your own, you can use something like a pendulum to help you determine the yes and no of it. But ask. One of the things I will always say is talk to your spirit guides like they are people on the street, like they are strangers, with the same courtesy, respect, requests, not demands. Interact with them as though they were still alive, because they once were alive, and give them the same respect you would want. They can also, like I said, assist in reading the tarot, ensuring that the information that I'm giving is accurate. That is what I use them for primarily, but sometimes if I'm really in a negative, sad, stuck place, I might say, hey, I don't know which meditation to do this morning. I'm going to open the app and scroll, help me find the right one. And I'll be drawn to a particular one. Or I might say, hey, there's 17 different explanations of what this animal spirit guide is about. I don't know which one's the right one. Point me to the right one. And it happens that way. I find the text that speaks to me. And so I would say I do interact with them daily. And the more you practice, the easier it becomes to trust, and the more readily you receive information. So I encourage you to practice that. At first, trust me, it feels freaking weird. It feels weird to sit in this office and do this video for you when my husband doesn't believe in spirit guides and doesn't know what I'm talking about. But this is an experience that I've had, and it's proved itself over and over and over, like time and time again. I've been doing this for 8 years now, and the more I do it, the stronger it gets. The more I trust them, the more they tell me. The more I am grateful to them and thank them for their gifts, the more they provide. And it's a fantastic relationship. So I encourage you, if you're interested, do what you can to get in touch with your guides. It's an amazing relationship, and it will change your life forever. The next question I get is, are my guides only mine? Are they mine alone? And I think that depends. I think most of the time, no. So obviously for ascended masters, the answer to that is no. I mean, Jesus isn't just your guide. I mean, it might be nice. People, would like to think that, but I don't think that's real. But like for ancestors, my grandmother is one of my guides, my mom's mom, my maternal grandmother. And I know this because I've interacted with her, but she's not around as much as I would like. And so when she is around, or when she was around initially and I first started noticing it, I would ask her, hey, Grandma, why are you here so seldom? Like, where do you go? What's going on? Because, like, what if I need you? And the message I got, again, in my head, but it was very clear, and it was very clearly her voice, was, your sister needs me more than you do. I'm with your sister. And it's absolutely true. My sister does need her more than I do. I grew up wanting to be just like my grandma, and so I spent a ton of time with her, and I am very much like her. She was a very strong Libra. I'm a very strong Capricorn. But my sister suffers with some anxiety and some other things, and my grandma was always kind of her rock. And so I know that she is there with my sister a lot of the time. I also know she shows up for my mom, but my mom doesn't believe in this stuff. So I think she just kind of flits in, takes a look and goes, I guess she's doing okay. And then she like departs. So, but it really made me feel better. It made me feel good knowing that she felt I didn't really need her, that I could handle my stuff. And when I really do need her, she does show up. And sometimes I ask her to show up and she shows up. And sometimes she shows up and does pranks and practical jokes on me because she's a jokester. But it's one of those things where I think that guides that are family members that have passed, they have more than just you that they want to check in on. They want to check in on the other kids, the grandkids, and so I think that most of the guides are shared guides, at least from my experience. The next question is, are my guides always with me? And the answer is yes, kind of, because I don't think they operate in the same way that us humans do when it comes to perceiving space and time. So I think that they're off doing the things that they're doing. And I think with a thought or a word or just like, just a split second, I can be like, Grandma, I need you. And boom, she's here. And so I don't think that she's elsewhere, but I don't think she's like looking in on my business 24/7. And I think that's the same with all the guides. I kind of view that like this timeline that isn't linear. Let's call it a multiverse. Let's get all Marvel on the topic. But I think that there's many other things going on and many other tracks of progress and many other parts of the universe that are happening simultaneously. And so she's over helping my cousin Brad, or she's over helping my sister. She can do that and then also be on another timeline helping my mom and be on another timeline helping me. I don't think that she is limited by time and space like we are. And so I do believe that they are constantly there, but they're not just chilling waiting for you to ask a question. I think they're doing things. I also think that they spend a lot of time in the Akashic records, looking at past lives. How do they pertain to this life? What is written for the future for each of us? And because those things are changing, right? I mean, the past is written, but the future is changeable. It's malleable. We change it every day by making choices. And so I think that they're constantly in the Akashic records, seeing how they can get the best information to help us move forward and help us do what we're here to do. But again, I think that in an instant, you can call, ask for them, think about them, and boom, they're there. This question also popped up. Do I have the same guides throughout my whole life? I believe that the guides you need show up when you need them. I think some of them are around your whole life. I think you are assigned a certain number of them from birth. But I do think that some of them you outgrow, or some of them might outgrow you. Some of them might decide to ascend, or reincarnate once they know they've gotten you through a certain part of your path. Sometimes you might need Archangel Michael or Archangel Raphael. And other times you might need the warm comfort of your grandmother. And they're not all going to be there the whole time. I think that they work in shifts. So basically, yeah, I do think that they stick with us, like they're available to us. Like I was saying before, I don't feel like they are just hovering, watching, waiting, waiting for you to ask them a question. I do feel like they're out doing other things and helping other people, and having fulfilling afterlives for the people who have, who have been alive. Angels haven't ever been living. So yeah. Another question that I get is, can my guides help me get in touch with past loved ones? Yes, there are many factors involved though. If your loved one has passed and is available, they can get in touch with them. Things that might make them unavailable is if they haven't come to terms with the life they lived here and haven't made amends. They might be in like this waiting place where they can't be gotten a hold of until they've processed their stuff. If there was a suicide, a lot of times those deaths, those people are harder to get in touch with, if you can get in touch with them at all, because again, they have to kind of come to terms with what they were processing that they did here on the other side. And a lot of times spirit guides will use a medium to get that message to you. So sometimes, especially if you are leery or hesitant about the skills you might have as a medium yourself, you might want that to happen and it may not happen. So there's this level of self-trust. Learning that I was a medium, because someone told me I was, made me laugh right out loud. I was like, okay, sure. Yeah. Talking to dead people, that's what I do. But then I'm also that person that's been super curious about this stuff since I was a kid. And so I kept my mind open. And then later on, somebody came to me and specifically offered for me to join a mediumship class. That does not happen every day. That doesn't just jump out of the sky into your lap. And because it happened where it happened and with the people that it happened with, I thought, this is something I'm supposed to do. And because I had already had that seed planted in my head that I was a medium, never in a million years would have imagined that I would become a tarot reader and a medium and the person that I am with the way that I was raised. But it is absolutely who I am. I do believe these things are real. I do believe spirit comes through to us. I do believe we get guidance from them, and they're there to help us be our best selves and to ascend ourselves, to find our enlightenment, and to provide that for other people that we run into. And and I think that sometimes that involves bringing through your loved ones that have passed to help you understand and help you believe that all of this is real and all of this is possible. So I will say I don't see it happen super often. I usually experience mediums bringing through those that have passed. But having said that, someone has to bring them to us. So my guess is that would probably be our... My goodness, I'm sorry. I don't know if you heard that, but there were squealy tires out there. It scared the living crap out of me.